The Bride, written and directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, stars Jessie Buckley as the coveted bride. It's the 1930s, and Frankenstein, or at least that's what we're going to call him for this one. I know he's technically the monster, he's Frankenstein's monster, but in this film he is called Frankenstein, Frankie, whatever. 1930s in Chicago, we are with Frank, who is feeling a little bit lonely these days and goes to a doctor to help resurrect somebody to become his bride. As they resurrect this person, they find that she is a little bit unorthodox and just kind of all over the place, and thus begins a Bonnie and Clyde expedition leading down a treacherous path. Now, I'm not really familiar with the source material of Frankenstein or The Bride of Frankenstein or any of that sort of nature, so when I saw the trailers for this, I was hooked initially because I love the prosthetic work in this movie. I love Christian Bale as an actor. I found the trailers to be at least somewhat engaging and interesting, and I thought this might be a fun time at the theater, and thus I went the other day to go see it. Now, this film does take a lot of huge swings, and its approach to this story is a bit odd at points. I don't necessarily love everything that they do here, but I can't deny that I didn't have some aspects that I did enjoy. For starters, I think Jessie Buckley as the bride in this is kind of like how this movie is entirely. It's kind of just a roller coaster of like, there's some great things up here that is really, really good, and then it kind of just falls down a little bit. I don't really necessarily hate the performance as a whole. I think that there's a lot of instances where it becomes really great, especially towards the back half where it's her and Frankenstein, mostly obviously with Christian Bale as the character. They have a really great back and forth a couple of times towards the end of the movie. But there's some other parts with her character because it's kind of hinted at the very beginning of the film that it's kind of like a psychosis thing that she kind of has. Seems like a split personality, and some of the stuff just kind of doesn't land for me personally. And then Christian Bale, I will say the same thing with that. While I did enjoy his performance, about the same, if not slightly more, just because I like Christian Bale as an actor and I don't necessarily know a ton of Jessie Buckley projects. I did enjoy some of the stuff that he did. There is some of that, Frankenstein feel in it, even though he's said to be like 100 plus years old in this film. I did find that stuff to be enjoyable. Again, I will praise once again the prosthetic work on him is phenomenal. There's so many scenes where you get to see like not just his face and like his neck or whatever, like you get to see like almost his entire body and kind of like the disfigurement that is the monster of Frankenstein. I found that stuff to be really, really enjoyable. And the production value of this film is actually really cool because it takes place in the 1930s and it does very much feel like the 1930s, down to like the streets and like the cars they use and the attire that everyone's wearing. It's just really fun. It feels very atmospheric for that sense for me. I love when a film really commits to the timepiece. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like how much I loved Fantastic Four First Steps with its retro futuristic vibe that it was going. This film also gave me that kind of like, ooh, I'm immersed into this setting. I could feel the setting that I'm in here right now. Everything with that is great. There's some visual in this movies that kind of go up and down for me. Again, as I was saying earlier, it's kind of a roller coaster of emotions for this entire film. There's some things where I just go, that doesn't look great. I don't love how that looks. The shaky cam at points seems a little weird, but there's parts where like kind of like you're in the bride's kind of mindset, and there's scenes where you see Jessie Buckley's head kind of like in like a jar, and like she's like talking to herself sort of, and like that sort of stuff looked really cool to me. Outside of that though, I just kind of wasn't really vibing with a lot of this film. It wasn't for me personally. Some other people might enjoy this a little bit more than myself, but I found the plot to be kind of like hinting at a few things that were kind of cool, or like it's messaging that it wanted to do, and it didn't really land for me. Like the detectives, for example, in this story that kind of like prance around throughout the entire film are not really introduced very much at the beginning, and they kind of forget them for a while, and then they come back in the end. And it's some of those storyline plots that are kind of dropped. There is, as is seen in the trailer, kind of a revolution that's kind of started with the bride. You see a bunch of people kind of putting on makeup similar to how she looks, and that sort of stuff just kind of goes away. There's a mob boss plot that is very forgettable and very underutilized, and I just didn't find any use for it in this film. It does feel like this film is a little too long, so I don't want to say that you should give it more time to that, because I was already kind of feeling the runtime and being like, this is kind of like overstaying its welcome. So they probably should have reworked some things in there a little bit, but nevertheless, there were some plot elements that just kind of didn't work for me. All in all, I think that The Bride is an okay watch. It's not something that I would necessarily go back and rewatch anytime soon. It's got some decent and interesting visuals, some really great prosthetic work, some really good acting at points throughout the entire film, but as an overall package, I think it's kind of just like a middle of the road kind of movie. I'm gonna give The Bride 3 stars. Thank you guys so much for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. You can check down the links all down below for all my socials with Twitter, Letterboxd, and TikTok, where we're going to be talking about films and many other things in my life. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep those cinemas alive, and I will talk to you all next time.